All right, Click Invest community, another week and another webinar. And this week is going to be a little bit different. Typically, if you guys are part of Click Invest community, you know that these webinars are all focused on bringing value add guys on that can just share a little bit about their experiences in real estate and real estate investing and whatnot, whether it's attorneys, lenders, yada, yada, yada. This week, I've got Ethan Renteria.
Perfect. You nailed it. Yep. You did.
He was coaching me on how to pronounce his name, and I kept butchering it, so I'm glad I got it. And Ethan's with New View Trust Company, and they're a self-directed IRA company. He's going to dive into that in a bit. But I thought it'd be great to have him on because, and speaking out of complete transparency here. So myself being an entrepreneur for 16 years, I'm like the typical real estate entrepreneur, right? Everything I make, I throw right back into my company. And, some may say that's honorable. Some may say that's really stupid. So I thought it'd be great to have Ethan on and just talk about alternative ways of investing, because it's not often I come across real estate investors that are actually putting their money away in the self-directed IRA. And I know my partner Jeff does, and he invests out of his IRA and whatnot. But I think this is definitely something you guys need to know about, and you guys have to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, if you have a family or whatnot, or you're trying to invest in real estate for the future, you got to be mindful of the future and start investing into it now. So, Ethan, thank you very much for being on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the Click Invest family having me on. I'm looking forward to kind of diving in a little bit more to what you talked about as well with, alternative ways to invest, and just another vehicle in which you can continue your investing, and keep the same strategies you guys have now, but just, again, utilize a tax advantage account to do that. So I'm excited to dive into that. Before I get going, just to introduce myself and my background and how I got started with this. I actually didn't come from a financial background. I started off and moved to Florida a few years ago and started off doing outside sales for Tesla. And the reason that I always bring this story up is because that was the first company that I worked for where I made some extra money that I could put aside and start thinking about doing other things with. And it wasn't until I left Tesla that's when I started thinking about IRAs and the retirement accounts, because I actually got a notification from Fidelity telling me, hey, now that you left, you have to do something with this money. You either have to roll it over or, choose to do something with it. And so, being a young guy, I was, all gung ho about maybe pulling the money out and using it to invest. And, because the idea of putting that money into an IRA and making a couple % on stocks didn't really excite me. But what did excite me is I'd always been into real estate, always interested in getting started with real estate. And that's what led me down the path of looking at self-directing your IRA. I didn't know that was something you can do. And that's what led me to New View. They were hiring at the time. And, what a better way to learn about the industry than just completely immerse yourself in it and work for a company that does that. So that's how I got started with it. And I quickly learned, like you had mentioned earlier, Rosario, that this has been around for such a long time, but very few people that have IRAs or have these accounts know that you can even do this. So that's what I'll touch on today is obviously, what is a self-directed IRA? Why would you want to use it to do your real estate investing? What are the benefits? And then as far as what our role at New View is, what the purpose that we serve is going to be. So I'll get into all those different things. And, again, feel free if you have questions or anything like that, stop me along the way. All right.
Awesome. I think you guys are, you guys that are watching this, I think you're going to have a lot of light bulbs going off, or on rather, because, from a self-directed IRA perspective, when you're dealing with the amount of capital that's in the space right now, whether it's leveraging self-directed IRAs for private capital, whether it's using it to purchase property, whatever, I think you guys are going to be really, really intrigued, and you guys are going to get a lot out of this. So I'm super excited for this. Ethan, thanks again. For you guys that aren't part of Click Invest, we are a platform for the real estate investor that's looking for flips or that's looking for rental properties for cash flow. And we've been around for several years. Between my partner and I, we've bought or sold over 7,000 properties. We work for some of the biggest hedge funds out there who are publicly traded, a few of those guys. And our goal really is to just come alongside the real estate investor and help them in the real estate investing enterprise, whether, again, it's flips or building a rental portfolio. These Click Invest webinars are here solely as a give back. So there's nothing being sold on this. We just want to provide great content and introduce you to friends of ours that we feel can help you along the way. So without further ado, Ethan, take it away, dude.
Awesome, man. So getting into it, if you bump it, there you go. Next slide there. So quick disclaimer to everybody watching, my role with NewView as a self-directed IRA custodian is we're non-fiduciary, meaning we're not the ones who provide the investing advice. Our goal is to provide you guys with the vehicle and unlock the retirement accounts for you to utilize for your own investing strategies. And that's why we're excited about the partnership with Rosario and Click Invest, because we find value in working and having our clients work with people that we trust and we know are reputable. And that's why it's exciting. We're going to be able to work with Click Invest because we know what they do. And it's going to be a phenomenal tool for you guys to learn and listen to Rosario and carry out your investing strategies, but hopefully start utilizing these tax advantage accounts from NewView. So that's our quick disclaimer. And now we can get into it. So first thing that obviously I'll touch on, and this is, what is a self-directed IRA, right? And for everyone watching that has a regular IRA or, an old 401k, I'll touch on that first, and then I'll get into kind of what the differences are, because I think it's important to understand what the difference between the two really are. So normally, just like myself at Tesla, you leave a company, you have a 401k, and traditionally what happens is you roll that over into an IRA with a regular fiduciary account or a wealth advisor or something like that, and they invest that into money markets or stocks and bonds, publicly traded things, and you make a few percent a year on your money until you retire, and then you're able to take it out and you have that little nest egg. So that's what a regular IRA is. So how a self-directed IRA differs is a self-directed IRA is one that you're the one making the investment. So instead of going to Fidelity and having your financial advisor invest into a mutual fund for you, you're taking that money and you're going out to Click Invest. You're going out to different investing strategies and putting that money yourself into an investment. Now, the big benefits of that are, one, it's the self, right? So there's no, you're not paying commissions to these financial advisors. Your IRAs are not being subject to those different types of commissions. And you're saving more of that money for yourself. And then number two is when we talk about returns, that's, I'm not the real estate expert, but if I were to ask most real estate experts, like Rosario yourself, if I were to ask you, what kind of returns can you get investing into real estate? You'd probably tell me a heck of a lot more than what you can get with investing into a mutual fund, unless, maybe some kind of crazy mutual fund. But I'm sure you could probably touch on that. You probably can make some better returns, right?
Absolutely. I mean, especially if you're using what I call smart leverage. So in our space, between private lenders and hard money, it's gotten so competitive that now you can leverage and basically cover almost your entire investment between how much the property costs and then how much the rehab is at pretty good interest rates and pretty low points. So it's not uncommon for somebody to invest $10,000 into a deal, and when all is said and done, within 6 months, make $10,000, let's say, on that $10,000 invested. So an annualized return that's 200%. So it can get pretty goofy. Yeah, exactly. And that's what excited me about it. Looking at that again, even for myself, when I gave that story earlier about my Tesla experience, making 7% in a money market didn't excite me. But what did was the types of stories that you hear about the real estate investing. And lastly, just as far as what NewView does is we're a custodian for self-directed IRAs. So in order for you to do these things and utilize your retirement account to make these types of investments, it requires a custodian. And that's what we are. We provide the record keeping and the reporting to the IRS for you and essentially unlock those funds. So that's what a self-directed IRA is.
You can go to the next slide here. Just some interesting facts that I always like to include. And again, Rosario, you had mentioned this right off the bat, just about how much money is actually locked up within IRAs. I thought this was incredible when I saw this. It's $9.5 trillion locked up in IRAs across the board. So again, it's one of those things that you are probably, if you're a real estate investor, you might already have these additional funds sitting there locked up in an IRA. And if it's something you're already good at and you're already doing, utilize the tax advantages from this money, because there's tons of it out there. And if you're somebody who is drumming up capital too, knowing that this is another additional tool for you to utilize to drum up capital from other investor partners that you have. Again, it's an incredible tool that you can utilize for so many different aspects. And then just on what I had mentioned earlier as well, is less than 5% of these people that have IRAs even know that you can do these types of things. So again, that's where my role comes in first and foremost, is more of just an educator and letting you know what the advantages are, and letting you know that this is out here, because more than likely you might have this yourself, or somebody that that you could joint venture with has an IRA that you can utilize to help your investing strategy. And then lastly, again, going back to just the mutual fund versus investing in real estate, right? This was a stat that I pulled. The average return for a mutual fund over the last 60 years is 7%. So when you compare that to the numbers that you hear real estate investors talk about, again, it's a pretty big discrepancy there. And definitely one that I would rather make the 200% that you just mentioned than the 7%, right? So yeah, there's just some interesting facts that I thought I would share.
And even if it's not 200, if it's 50%, 25, 30,
if it's 12%, right?
Well, what I tell people is when you're investing in real estate, because I had my Series 7 in a prior life and used to trade futures, and then was very heavily involved in the stock market. And what always blew my mind was it was just paper, right? It was just paper. Where when you're dealing with real estate, it's real. You can drive out to it. It's an asset. You can touch the brick with your hand.
Right. Right.
And it's more the human element involved, which I always was fascinated by compared to just paper. It was just kind of like as quickly as it comes, it can go.
So. Right. Exactly. And so just a little bit of information too, as far as, again, going back to self-directing your IRA versus having an advisor direct it. This is the big thing as far as the commissions aspect go. Those guys obviously they're doing something for you, so they're not working for free. And so just some more statistics around the regular IRAs and where that money is going. 35% of the average mutual fund is paid in management fees and commissions. So that's the big one that I want to highlight, because again, if it's something that you know how to do, or somebody that is deep dives into investing, why pay that retirement money? That's your retirement. 35% to somebody else. Put it towards something that you can learn and you can do yourself to avoid those commissions and fees. So again, just a little tidbit on what a regular IRA is doing right now. All right. And then this is probably one of my favorite slides, because this is talking about the benefits of we talked about what it is, but this is the why. And this is the biggest reason on why you would want to utilize the IRA to make your real estate investments or your other alternative investments. It's for the tax benefits, right? The government gives us these, they don't give us a lot of tools when it comes to tax advantages, but they do give us this as a tax advantage tool to grow your wealth. And so I'll kind of keep this in the real estate realm to give you some examples. But when we're talking about, real estate, capital gains tax is a big thing that comes up in the real estate realm, whether, it's a buy and hold, a fix and flip. At some point when you go to sell that property and it appreciates and you make whatever gains you make on it. Well, if you're doing investing outside of an IRA, you have to pay some capital gains tax on your profits. So a lot of people utilize 1031 exchanges and different other tools to help defer those taxes. Well, your IRA is a tool that you already have, or is a tool that's accessible to you to either grow that wealth tax-free if it's within a Roth IRA, or tax-deferred if it's within a traditional IRA. So to give you an example, a Roth IRA, you pay taxes when you put the money in. And then once that money's in your account, if you were to go out and invest into a real estate property through Click Invest, and then you make X returns on it, you make $30,000 in a few months on that return or whatever it might be. Well, that $30,000, you don't pay tax on that anymore because it's within your Roth IRA. So that's the big benefit of utilizing these accounts. And just one example, I mean, there's so many different strategies that you could go about using an IRA to invest, but that's probably the most present. And then also too, there's other accounts that you can utilize like HSA, healthcare savings accounts, and educational savings accounts for your kids. You can also self-direct those and same strategies that I just mentioned and help grow, an educational account for your kids or help pay for your medical bills utilizing an HSA account. So just a few of the examples, but that's why you would want to utilize the IRA and the power of an IRA to do that investing.
One stat, I actually brought this up on a sales call this morning to a few of my team members. I brought up about the 9 whatever trillion that are pretty much locked, right, in IRAs across the country. But then I also brought up this stat about 97% of Americans are invested in traditional, well, you can't see it because it's blocked out there, but they're invested in traditional investment vehicles like stocks, bonds, whatever, mutual funds. Right. And that blew me away, 97%. So there's such an untapped market there. Right.
There really is. And the big portion for that too is, people always mention, well, why wouldn't my financial advisor tell me about this? And because again, when you have a company sponsored 401k plan, the next step is you usually leave it at wherever that custodian is and roll it into an IRA. Well, those guys obviously want to make their commissions. If you're the one self-directing it, they're not going to make any commission on it, right? So that's why it just doesn't even get brought up. And so, again, that's what our job is, to help spread the message so that you can look at it, see if it's something that's right for you.
I equate it to, not as dramatic as this, but when people are like, well, wait a minute, I could lower my cholesterol just by watching my diet. It's like, yeah. And like, well, exactly. Why isn't my doctor telling me that?
Yeah, right.
Because the doctor makes money with every visit, so exactly. They're not in the business of telling you what unfortunately, what's always best for you. So,
sure.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. All right.
Next I like that analogy.
All right. Where do you guys?
All right. Yeah. So as far as NewView and what our role is the custodian. I talked a little bit about, as far as what a custodian does. You need a custodian in order to unlock those IRA funds for you, because we're the ones that custody the asset, the alternative asset. So we provide all the record keeping and reporting to the IRS. So we take that hassle off your plate and let you focus on going out, finding the investment, working with JV partners to grow that wealth. And then we take care of the back end process as far as the reporting and record keeping. The other big thing too, as far as NewView and what we pride ourselves on as a self-directed IRA custodian, is our customer service. And like that stat you had just mentioned with the 97%, there are very few people that know you can do this. So it's an educational process at first. And so having a custodian that focuses on customer service and being there, getting to know our clients on a first name basis, understanding what the process is that they use to invest, understanding what their strategies is. So every time you call us, it's not re-explaining 8 different times of what it is that you have to do. It's, we know X, Y, or Z, and we know what kind of transactions they're going to make. So that's just a little bit about us exclusively. The other thing I'll note in here too is we're called NewView Trust, and we're not called NewView IRA anymore. And what that means is, as a trust company, we're regulated by the state. So we have to pass some more stringent guidelines than just a regular third-party administrator would have to pass. So that means that everything is regulated. We can get audited. And so the reason I bring that up is your money's very, very safe with a trust company as opposed to just a third-party administrator, where they don't have to answer to any state guidelines or anything like that. So you'll see when, doing research on, a self-directed IRA custodian, you'll see a lot of companies that are called, blah, 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 IRA or whatever IRA. And when they're saying that, that means they're a third party administrator as opposed to a trust company. So that's just another benefit. And then aside from, just, what what we are and what we do. As a company, we provide weekly educational content for our clients. And then we also do meetup groups like the ones that Rosario and I are going to be hosting, where we get our clients in the room together. We provide educational content for them, but it's a networking opportunity. As I learned when I got into this industry, real estate really is about networking and getting the right team together. And that's the same thing that we want to bring to our clients, is get them all in a room together so that way those joint ventures can happen, and get them in front of people that we trust, title companies that we work with, and everybody that is there, that we can indirectly get them in a room together where they can grow their business and have those resources available.
Awesome.
All right. I love this slide too. And this is just another example of how using an IRA can benefit your investing strategy. So it's a simple analogy, but I think it does a trick in highlighting the tax-free wealth building. So on the left-hand side here, you have, you see the big numbers at the bottom. This would be a very simple investing strategy that if you took $1 and you doubled it 20 times in a tax-free environment, like a Roth IRA, let's say. So it doesn't matter what the strategy is, but let's just say you were able to double your dollar 20 times. At the end of it, in a tax-free environment like a Roth IRA, you'd be left with $1 million. Well, if you were to take that same strategy, didn't change anything, but you just did it normally outside of your Roth IRA, just in your regular bank account, well, you'd still have a nice chunk of change at the bottom. You'd have $72,000. But you can see the power that not taking that tax out has on your investments. It's 10 times the growth.
Yeah.
So every time I show that to somebody, again, it's once you see those numbers side by side, and those are the numbers that I saw when I'm looking at this for myself. And it's just like, why wouldn't you do that if you have an IRA or you have this vehicle already established? It's there, use it. You know what I mean? So I really like that slide to kind of show the power of it.
Yeah, that is powerful.
So now we'll get into, and I don't want to take up too much time going through, every single detail of every account. That's where what we do is, again, I get the information out there, and then we set up a lot of individual meetings, because everybody's circumstances and situations in terms of what accounts they have are very different. But to give you a high level overview of all the accounts that are available to be self-directed, you have the traditional IRA, very, very popular account, the Roth IRA. Those are the two biggest ones that we'll see. And then for anybody that has self-employed income, the SEP IRA is big because the contribution limits are a little bit higher. What that means for anyone who might not understand what the contribution limits are, every year the government allows you to contribute money out of your own pocket to add to your retirement account. So in a traditional and a Roth IRA, if you're under 50 years old, you can contribute $6,000. If you're over 50, it's called a catch-up. They want you to get a little bit more in there before retirement, so you can actually contribute up to $7,000 per year. Now, the reason that somebody who's self-employed would utilize a SEP IRA is because the contribution limits are much, much higher. So it's up to $55,000 is what you can contribute within a SEP IRA. So that's kind of what I look at with you when I sit down with a client. I look at, okay, what's your situation? Are you self-employed? Are you not? And we figure out what the best account would be for you to help grow that retirement account as quickly as possible. And then a simple IRA, this is great if you're an employer without you own a small business with 100 or less employees. You can actually offer your employees a retirement plan called a simple IRA, and it's much, much cheaper than offering a 401k plan for them. We see a lot of small companies that aren't able to offer their employees a retirement account because it's too expensive. It doesn't make sense for them. Well, a simple IRA is much, much cheaper, and it allows you as the employer to contribute to their accounts, and they can also self-direct their IRAs if they want, or they can put them in a normal Fidelity account, normal depository account, and have a wealth manager direct to do normal stocks and bonds. So it gives you a lot of freedom as an employer to offer your employees another benefit. And then lastly, I do want to touch on the HSA and the ESA, because these two accounts are two accounts that anybody with kids or anybody that has a high deductible healthcare plan should definitely look into as far as wealth building. And one of the examples I like so much about an HSA is, for instance, you can self-direct your HSA. So you can partner it with your other accounts to go out and buy a rental property, for instance, and grow that slowly over time and start amassing wealth within that account. But you can actually take that money out at any time for a qualified medical expense. So imagine you go to the doctor. I'm a young guy, but I go to the doctor just like everyone else. I went a month or so back because I had a sore throat, and I think it was like $200 for my visit after I got the throat culture done. And I paid the $200 out of pocket. Well, with my HSA account, I can save up those receipts for the next year. I can pay it out of my pocket and then save up those receipts for the next year. And let's say I save up $1,000 in receipts. I can go turn those receipts in and get $1,000 back. And the interest that I was making from my investments just paid for my medical expense for that year. So just one example, and I could spend all day talking about just an HSA alone, but just one example of how you can utilize those accounts to benefit not just real estate, but your medical expenses, your kids' college savings. You know what I mean? And we can go on from there. And then the last one is the solo 401k. This is another phenomenal account for self-employed individuals. So those are the requirements for the SEP and the solo 401ks. You must be self-employed, but they have much higher contribution limits. So again, they just help you grow your wealth within that account much, much quicker. So those are the types of accounts that we offer at NewView, and everything that we allow you to do.
So for the sake of time here, because I think we're at 26 minutes, if you want to blow through these, and then guys, at the end of the day, right, the purpose of these webinars is to give you great content. This this gentleman is pouring a ton out, and this stuff is all extremely valuable information. I think the best thing you guys can do at the end of this webinar is take down his information, reach out to him directly. And is it cool if they just shoot you an email? Can you fire back these slides?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I'm glad you hit on this, because the first time, again, usually I was sitting through this. The first time I watched this presentation, it's a ton of information. But the big ones to note is that, again, the big thing to take away is know that the vehicle is out there. And like you just mentioned, that's where I sit down with you directly and we go through your individual situation, and we'll make sure we get the best plans type that benefits your lifestyle set up. And we make sure that you understand everything. And keep in mind too, once you set up a self-directed IRA, you're not just in the dark and it's up to you to figure out. That's what our role, again, as a custodian is to be there for you, to help you every step of the way through your transactions, to make sure that what you're doing is on the up and up, to make sure there's no prohibited aspects to the transactions you're trying to make. And I'm always there as your point of contact as well. When you need something, you get my direct point of contact, you get my email, and you can say, hey, Ethan, I'm thinking about the HSA. Can you walk me through how this all works again? And that's what my job is. I'm more than happy to do that. So again,
So selfishly, I'm going to skip all these slides.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
That is because they can come to you on this stuff. What I want to get to,
I think this should be the last part that we probably touch on, are the prohibited parties and then the prohibited transactions. And I'll get through this, but basically disqualified parties, as far as we talked about a lot of the things that you can do with some of those examples with real estate.
Oh yeah. No, you're good. I didn't know.
Yeah, just talking about some of the things that you can't do are essentially the disqualified parties of people you can't work with are anybody, yourself, as well as anybody that's a lineal descendant. And that sounds kind of weird. What do you mean yourself? That just means you can't utilize your IRA. Your IRA must take a passive role. So you can't go out and buy a vacation home and vacation with it with your family, right? Because that would be, you're utilizing it not for a retirement purpose, but you're utilizing it for, a self-enjoyment purpose. And same thing with the other disqualified parties, your mom, your grandma, your son, your daughter, any lineal descendants on that tree, right? But then as far as your aunts and uncles, your brothers and sisters, you're more than fine to work with. So those are the disqualified parties. If you go to the next slide with prohibited transactions, prohibited transactions are basically any dealings with a disqualified party. What I just mentioned, you can't go out and buy your mom a vacation home in Mexico and have her, rent it out to her. But that doesn't mean you can't partner with them on an investment. you and your mom could absolutely partner and buy a home together for a investment purpose and then rent it out to somebody else. The terms just have to be defined. And again, this is the part too, where we as NewView, we help you guys through this process. When we look at the transactions you're trying to process, we can be there as that guidance and say, hey, you're walking a fine line here between a prohibited transaction. So again, it's a lot of information to take at first, but this is where when you contact me, I'm able to go through with you. And then again, another example would be, lending money between an IRA owner and a disqualified party. I can't use my IRA to go lend my mom 20 grand, right? You can't do that. So just a couple examples. Again, I don't want to take up because I could talk, for a while about every example there is out there. That's where, again, us as the custodian, we provide you that information.
I think what we're going to do is we'll have you back on and we'll just get in the weeds a little bit, like get deal specific. I know you can't talk about certain things, but I can.
Right.
Basically what you could just respond, throw the flag like, no, can't do that. Or
Well, absolutely. And I can definitely talk on when you give specific examples of deals and things like that. I can absolutely tell you guys that, how you'd want to look at structuring that deal. The only thing I can't do is I can't say, hey, go invest in X, Y, or Z because it's going to bring you tons of returns, right?
Okay.
That's not me. That's
so here's the fire drill. All right.
Yeah.
I've got $100,000 in a self-directed IRA and I want to invest in a flip. How do I do it?
Absolutely. Good question. So what you do is you would first go, if it's a flip through Click Invest, obviously you would utilize however much money you guys need on your end, the $100,000. And then just keep in mind to keep it on the up and up. Every aspect of that property, everything that needs to be paid for from that property, if you're buying 100% of it with your IRA, needs to come from your IRA. So that's the big thing with real estate is just getting in the mindset when I'm buying a $50,000 property, I don't want to completely drain my IRA because if there's expenses for that property, they need to be paid for.
I've got $100,000 in my self-directed IRA. There's a property I want to buy, and I only have to come up with 20% of the purchase price. So I only have to come up with $20,000. How do I do it?
Yeah. So you're saying on your end, the deal that you found?
Yep.
Yeah. So what you would do is you would take $20,000 from your IRA, right? And then if the property was however much, let's say the property was $40,000, you would either find a partner that has an IRA or somebody that has funds outside of an IRA. The terms just have to be defined on the contract, on the purchase contract. So now the way it looks is that Ethan's IRA owns 50%, and then whoever else, Bob owns the other 50%, right? I mean, that's a very dumbed down version of it, but that's how the deal would be structured.
Now, let's say I have $100,000 in my self-directed IRA, and we'll give you another name, Eric, instead of Ethan. Eric is a sophisticated real estate investor, and he needs $30,000 to buy the deal. Can I lend him the $30,000 at a 9% interest rate?
Absolutely. So you can utilize your IRA to hard money lend as well. So you can set those terms. So whatever you and Eric work out, but you can absolutely use your IRA to hard money lend.
Awesome. And then what about rentals and Airbnb? Same deal?
Rentals are the same thing. So you go out with your IRA, purchase a rental property. The awesome thing is all of that rental income is being cycled back into your IRA. And then right through NewView, one of the awesome things that we do, one of the questions that comes up is, what if I have a reoccurring expense for that rental property, like a utility bill or something like that? All of that, when you set up your IRA with NewView, we give you an online portal and there's a bill pay section. So just like you can bill pay from your Chase Bank account online, you can bill pay from your NewView IRA portal and set up online bill pay, everything you need to do.
That is fantastic.
Pretty neat. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And that's the skinny. And I let you go. Yeah. Literally, those 3 minutes are what people want to know about. The guys that understand the IRA, that's what they want to know about, the last 3 minutes. But I mean, for everybody else, and including myself, the information you brought up in the beginning, like that stuff is great information. And for people that don't dive into that side of it, you have to understand it.
Right.
So what does it cost? We'll wrap it up with this so people understand the vehicle itself. How does this work?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, guys. And this is just strictly for your information, so you guys know. It's $295 anytime you go out and buy an asset. So that would be like a house. It doesn't matter if that house is $1 million. It doesn't matter if that house is $1,000. It's $295 for us to custody that asset for the year. That means provide the record keeping and reporting to the IRS. And then anytime you buy or sell an asset, we charge you $100 for us to process that, go out and purchase that asset for you, and then go out and sell it. So when you sell that, you pay us $100 to process the sale. That's what it costs. Again, we don't make commissions on what your gains are within your account. So that's the big benefit. There's one other fee structure that we have. I'll just keep this one because this one for the real estate investors is the bread and butter. I mean, this is where you guys are going to save a ton of money rather than those 35% commissions you're paying on your mutual fund. But that's what it costs to utilize a self-directed IRA to do this. So it's a pretty inexpensive tool to use.
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, some of these guys, when they're using a hard money loan or whatever, they're spending $2,000 just in junk fees per deal. So wow. I mean,
that's crazy.
This is peanuts. This is nothing. Dude, thank you so much for being on. This was a ton of information, a ton of great information, and I really hope you guys that are watching this, especially you investors that are so stuck in the next deal mindset and aren't siphoning off anything for future savings, go through this a few times, and or better yet, just reach out to Ethan directly. We've got his information up on the screen. There's his phone number. There's his email address. I spelled everything right? Is everything right?
Yeah, perfect, man. And yeah, just to piggyback off what you said in that last slide there where we were kind of doing the rapid fire questions, for those of you that understand the IRA aspect, don't hesitate. You can reach out. I'm more than happy to hop on a call with you. And just like Rosario just said, where he rapid fired scenarios at me, more than happy to do that as well. And get those questions out of the way too.
Awesome. All right. As always, guys, thanks for checking this out. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me directly at rosario@clickinvest.com, or you can call me on my cell, 708-369-3151. Ethan, thank you very much again, dude, and look forward to having you on again soon.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.